Today, the CFPB looks back at TRID. This is the Mortgage Banking Livestream. Welcome, this is the Mortgage Banking Livestream. Today is October 5th, 2020. I'm Troy Garris Horn. We are here to educate, to connect, to entertain. We're going to give you a brief update on the election. We're going to talk about some regulatory developments and a regulatory update. And if you have any questions, you want any topics that you want to address here, just shoot me a text, shoot me an email. You can find my contact information just below down in the description on the YouTube channel. And reach out to me. We'll make sure to get your information, your questions on here, and try to get them addressed in the best way possible. In fact, today's conversation results in part from just one of those types of contacts, just one of those types of questions, and we're going to dive into this a little bit. A couple of shouts out as we get started. MBA's annual convention, October 19th through 21st. This is all virtual, as you know. Great conversations are going to go on. It's going to be different this year, of course, because it's virtual. But you will find no better convention in the mortgage industry than the MBA's annual convention. It's a great organization, a great event, lots of great, hard-working people over there, and they do a lot for this industry. Make sure you register. Make sure you take advantage of that. You just missed the early bird registration. What can I say? I keep reminding people, if you haven't signed up by now, you got a little bit of time left, but get your registration in there. Also, Texas MBA, people love and know that I love the Texas MBA. It's just also a very strong organization, one of the best state-level organizations in this entire industry, in this entire country. And the TMBA is going to have its mortgage symposium and its reverse mortgage day, November 17th and 18th. This year, again, virtual. Everybody's learning how to do this virtual stuff. And they got some great speakers, some great content over there. Make sure you register. The Texas MBA, I'll tell you, is one of the premier organizations, and it does a lot for its members. And you'll definitely want to check those conferences out that the TMBA puts on. It's just a fantastic group of people, fantastic organization. Couple of special things. Caroline Jones at the Texas Department of Savings and Mortgage Lending. We had Caroline on last week on the Mortgage Banking Livestream here. As always, providing helpful content. Caroline heads up an organization that really does do all that it can to help consumers, help the industry, help all the different interests that are and weigh all the different interests that are involved in the mortgage banking industry. And really does an enormous and strong job with very limited staff, really. And she is able to, she and her team, I know she wouldn't take all of the credit herself, she and her team are able to work in a manner that really does make the industry stronger and better for consumers and better for the financial markets, in the sense that if you don't have a strong financial market, you can't have help for consumers anyway. And so thank you, Caroline, for coming on and sharing us your thoughts. She talked about some of the issues that they are seeing in particular that are concerns by the agency during exams and enforcement and the like. You'll definitely want to check that out if you didn't see it already. Sheila Strong at AmeriFirst, thank you, Sheila, for reaching out. Sheila reached out with regards to one of our blog posts, and thank you, Sheila, for that. Linda Munoz out of San Francisco. So Linda sent in, actually to one of my partners over at my law firm, Garris Horn. Linda sent in a comment on the TRID rules. And so that, in the TRID assessment, TRID look back, and that's one of the reasons that we are focusing on this today. I think a lot of people know that the CFPB just recently did an assessment of the TRID rule, and Linda had some comments there. And we appreciate you reaching out, Linda. And hopefully this will provide some of the insights there. Joy McGee over at Partners Credit. Thank you, Joy. Always good to see you. Let's talk briefly about the election. So the vice presidential debates were this Wednesday evening. So this is Pence and Harris debates, right? A lot of people view the vice presidential debates as sort of an add-on, kind of an unimportant sideshow at best, something mostly to be ignored. And I think, of course, I'm a DC guy at heart, right? And so, I'm always of this opinion that these are important anyway. But just think of it this way: this year, in particular, seems to me like the vice presidential debates are especially important because we have two people that, well, we just saw with President Trump. He maintained control during his stint at Walter Reed, but a lot of presidents in the past, when they've gotten sick, have given over control to the vice president, if even for a little bit. And these are very uncertain times, right? And so it seems to me like more than ever before, people should be listening into what the vice presidential candidates also have to say, because these vice presidential candidates could play a big role depending on whether their candidate is elected. It's just something you really ought to be paying attention to, because they could be calling the shots, and if not, they're not calling the shots. They could be heavily influencing those people who do, and so you really want to take a look at that. You really do. Make sure you watch those debates this Wednesday. A couple other points. The Supreme Court nomination, of course, is catching all the attention in the regular news, and there is a big push on both sides to get their position to be the position that rules the day. Of course, the Republicans currently control the Senate. Let's take a look back just briefly and figure out how we landed where we are. Because in 2013, the Democrats ended the filibuster, which requires, as everyone knows, at least 60 votes in the Senate. The Democrats ended the filibuster for all of the judges except for the Supreme Court. So back in 2013, the Dems pulled out what they lovingly refer to as the nuclear option in the regular media, and it's a smart move. It's not a smart move. You can debate that, but it's been going on now for 7 years. So the Democrats ended the filibuster then, back in 2013. In 2017, with Justice Gorsuch, the Republicans, then in control of the Senate, ended the filibuster for the Supreme Court. And now in 2020, we have another opening in the Supreme Court, and we have the statements that there's going to be an approved a candidate nominated. Of course, we already have that, and now we have the Republicans saying that they're going to get this candidate onto the Supreme Court and confirmed prior to the end of the year here. Now, again, you can debate one way or the other whether it's a good idea, whether it's a bad idea. You could also easily debate, why was this approach that's currently being touted as okay for the Republicans, why did the Republicans, in the Democrats' view, change their position? You could also take the other side and say, well, why did the Democrats change their position? Why is it a bad idea now when it was a good idea before? And again, you can debate all that stuff. But what it is we have a specific rule-based system, a nation of laws, and we have policies that ride on top of those laws. And it's very important that you get your voice out there. So I'll mention this just as sort of a teaser for this coming Wednesday, but we're going to have a person on. Ted Kalick is the person's name. Ted's going to be on our live stream on Wednesday, and he's going to be talking about he gets poll workers to volunteer their time to get out and help out at polls, and it's nonpartisan. It's just the concept is to get people to volunteer to work at the polls for a limited period of time. It's important work, and as you can imagine, it's harder these days during the pandemic to get people to do that. It's seriously important work, and Ted's going to be on Wednesday to talk about that. So I encourage you to attend that. I encourage you to, if you want the information how to sign up, in your local area, let me know because I can get you that information. I can connect you with Ted, and it's a great organization that and Ted spends a lot of his time on that, and it's just important stuff. A couple other shouts out: Heather Sanchez. Heather, thank you. Heather's at Magnolia Bank. I appreciate the support. Sooner Katz over at Bayview. Good to see you, Sooner. I do appreciate the support. Sharif Pfeiffer. All just such wonderful people. I am blessed to be in this industry and to have such the support of such wonderful people. Let's dive into a little bit of regulatory update. So, as you know, the CFPB recently extended just briefly, the comment period for its new category of QMs, these so-called seasoned loan QM loans. And the deadline was October 1st, so it was last week, right? But the CSBS, Conference of State Banking Supervisors, they sent in a letter requesting that the CFPB extend the time because the CSBS notes that this new category of seasoned loan QMs has in large part flown under the radar, and it could be very important. It's an important type of loan. It's an important area, especially for some certain types of entities, and the CSBS would like the CFPB to make sure that it considers all of the public comments, gets all the information that it needs to make an informed decision in that regard. And so the CSBS has asked for an extension of time there, and to take that matter very seriously. We'll see what happens there. CSBS also is itself seeking comments, and I encourage people to comment on this, same as I do always, to make sure that you get your input into the industry. The CSBS is looking for comments on prudential standards for non-bank mortgage servicers. The CSBS notes that, now, as people know, this is the state banking supervisors, right? So these are the people that are in usually the licensing and authority and the authorities at the state levels for banks and for independent mortgage banking companies. And so it's their group, it's their association, and they're looking for input on the prudential standards for non-bank mortgage services. And they note that so many of the servicing duties these days, especially as the market continues to evolve, is and likely will be influenced or handled by the state licensed and state governed organizations. And so the CSBS is looking for comments there. Try to make, if you're at all involved in servicing, and even if you're in originations, but servicing definitely affects you, especially in this pandemic type of a situation, get over there, read the rules, the proposals, and make comments, because this is your chance to exercise your democratic rights and your rights in this democracy. And so this is the type of process that helps create a better system, and you'll definitely want to do that. If you need the information, reach out to me. I can send it to you, and make sure you get your comments in there. So Linda Munoz asked, and I note that CFPB also put out just recently its assessment on the TRID rule. And I was going to talk about this anyway, but she highlighted it for one of my partners, and she was fairly critical, and I know there are people that are critical. A lot of people know that in my law firm, Garris Horn, the Horn in that law firm is Richard Horn, who was instrumental in the writing of and implementation of the TRID documentation, the TRID rules. Of course, that came out of Dodd-Frank, and it came out of a long push by the regulators and by Congress and by others to try to combine the disclosure requirements that came out of RESPA that were designed to help out consumers, and the disclosure requirements came out of TILA, again designed to help consumers, but they were different, right? So we had the old initial and final TIL, we had the old GFE and HUD-1. Now those are still used even in some areas of the marketplace for certain loans, a very small, comparatively a very small pool of loans these days. But nevertheless, this was a long push and finally got implemented with the TRID rules. So the CFPB did its assessment and they found kind of mixed results, really. There was, some of the positive points is the CFPB says that, in their review, they found that the consumers find that with the TRID documents, it's easier for consumers to find key information, critical information they need to understand mortgage loans. The CFPB found that consumers are they find it easier to compare offers between different mortgage companies. If they're trying to shop around, they get the LE from one company, they can relatively easily compare it to the LEs from another company. They found that it was easier for consumers to compare between what was offered at the very beginning when they first got the LE to the closing disclosure at the end, the final CD, and made that comparison better, and so presumably more effective. But then they also found that the evidence was sort of mixed on whether the consumers actually better understood the forms themselves and understood what it was that they were reading. And it's in part because boiled down, and any loan officer will tell you this, any person working at a company will tell you this, and actually probably any consumer will tell you this, that really there's this mountain of paper that they are given, and they don't know where to begin. They don't know where to find the information, and so it's really an educational process, and consumers are just not haven't historically received an educational process. In fact, people talked about this for a long time, where people learn all kinds of things in elementary school and middle school and high school, even in college, and they'll never learn to do simple things like figure out what a credit card is and how that works and how basic finance works. And all of that plays in here. But there were a lot of pros that the CFPB found with regards to the TRID documents. Now, on the downside, the CFPB noted that there seemed to be a sizable cost for implementation of the TRID forms. And I think you could talk to anybody in our industry and they would say, yes, there was a massive effort to get these forms in place. First, to figure out what the forms meant, then to get the forms into the system, then to train the entire teams on how the forms worked. Immense cost. And one of the things that baffles me, this is again just part of people not understanding how finance works. One part that baffles me is that so often people just treat time, you hear the phrase kind of in a trite manner, time is money, but nobody really values time. Nobody puts a value on time. I'll tell you, time is the one thing you can never get more of, ever. Seems to me like it's the most valuable piece of the most valuable element of our lives. And so it seems to me that it's kind of unusual that people just don't understand that time is not just money. Time is not money. Money we can get more of, but time is unique and valuable in itself. And you can convert time to money, but it's not the same. Anyway, so get on my soapbox there. So they found that the CFPB found that some of the downsides were sizable implementation costs. It also, the CFPB also found that there were sizable ongoing costs to companies. At least that's what companies reported. Now the CFPB seemed to question whether that was accurate and question the reliability of some of the evidence and the assertions there. But I'll tell you that in my experience and in the experience of my clients and the people that I've talked with, there are lots of people, lots of individuals that are working on these types of documents these days that it wasn't the case in the past. And so if you break out TRID just by itself and you say, well, does this actually result in ongoing costs that are not ending? I would say that there's the company's assertion, there's a lot of merit in that, in those assertions. But the CFPB did question whether that was accurate. I'd also point out that the CFPB found significant changes. So despite the TRID documents being, I would say, anybody who looked at the two and said you have to choose between the two versions, the old GFE and HUD 1 and initial and final till versus the TRID documents, anybody who was forced to pick one of those systems, I think everybody would pick TRID. They just would. Let's face it, the TRID documents are way better than the old ones. But nevertheless, in part because of the significant hyper-technical rules there, the CFPB found that there were significant changes in the documents if you go beginning to end. So at least the CFPB found at least one change in about 90% of the pool of loans that it reviewed. 90% of loans had at least one change. 62% had at least one revised LE. That's a huge number. 49% had at least one corrected CD. About half had a corrected CD. And if they reviewed the initial, the first LE all the way to the final CD, they found changes of APR in about 40%, loan amount in about a quarter, and change in interest rate in about 8%. Those are big numbers of changes, and in part because of the very hyper-technical rules in this regard, that's why we get this sort of data. And so small changes result in significant regulatory burden and work in the companies on behalf of the CFPB's rules to provide information to the consumer. Is it better? Is it worse? Well, the jury's still out there. And in my opinion, and I think everybody would agree with me, but happy to get your comments on this. Is it better that we have the TRID rules now instead of the old rules? Send in your comments and let me know about that. But I will tell you this, just like we had when we were talking about the CFPB being unconstitutional in this recent case, be careful what you wish for, because I don't know anybody, even if you think that the old version is better than the TRID documents, I don't think anybody wants to go through another version where we're changing that entire system. One of the first things I learned when I became a lawyer was to be careful of the unintended consequences. And these extra costs, the extra confusion that came along with it, that is part of the unintended consequences of TRID. But I do think that overall the world came out to be a better place for it in terms of people being able to understand the loans that they're getting, if they want to. If they don't want to, I don't know what you're going to do about that. And part of it, of course, is just educating our population. It's an important aspect, and not enough people do that. I'll tell you, the Texas MBA and the MBA itself, both organizations that have big initiatives to educate people in that sense. Part of our mission here at the Mortgage Banking Livestream is to educate people. So I applaud those organizations, and we seek to do that here too. And I hope that other people will volunteer their time and try to make this world a better place. Another couple shouts out. Matthew Martin. Matthew, great to see you here. Jeff Boland. Jeff over at Black Man and Graham. Jeff, thank you so much. And Teja Goodluru, thank you as well. Always happy to see. I'm glad to see here new supporter, and I do appreciate it. Everybody have a fantastic week. Again, this is the Mortgage Banking live stream, and if you want some particular topic on here, just send me your request. I read all the comments. I read all the questions. I try to get the topics on, just like today's, if somebody asks for it. And if you think this information is helpful, subscribe. All you got to do is hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Forward it along. Just forward the link. Just copy and paste the link and forward it along to a friend or a colleague if you think it'd be helpful. And I wish everybody a great week. This is the Mortgage Banking live stream. I'm Troy Garris. Peace.